It's more focused on diversity, inclusion. Stop it. Stop it. The term woke is not even used properly. Woke is the term from us, the black community, either around or right before the civil rights movement. It was used to tell each other, hey, stay woke, to keep an eye out when it came to police brutality and systematic racism. Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Rick. Welcome to Rick Reacts and Games. If you haven't done so already, like and subscribe. It goes a long way. I appreciate the support. I want to talk about something that I've been racking my brain for a while now. All right. I had to rework this video and take some time. This was supposed to be the review of the Marvels, the movie, but then TaiKa Watiti, I don't know if I said his name right, my bad. He said this.
You know what? I had no interest in doing one of those films. It wasn't on my sort of like my whole plan of like my career as an auteur. But I was poor and I just had a second child and I thought, you know what? This would be a great opportunity to feed these children. I did some research on it and I read
a full one
Thor comic.
Yeah.
All 18 pages or however long they are.
Sure.
I was still baffled by this character, and I thought, well, you know, if there's anything I can bring to this.
Let's be honest. When it comes to comics, I mean, red is a stretch. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Keep going. Looked at. Okay.
I flipped through. They went, yeah, that's enough.
Yeah.
And then pitched myself. I thought the only thing that I could bring was as a character. It's like just looking at Thor as a character, and look, he's like a billionaire, lives in space, and you know he looks ridiculous, and that was sort of the end. I was like, well, let's just highlight that he's like a rich kid I pitched that he's a bit like you and me, Jason, that he hates germs,
right?
And
that didn't scare the out of them.
I think there was no place left to go with that thing.
Everyone had passed.
I was like, it felt like, I thought, wow, they called me and this is really the bottom of the barrel. This is the barrel.
But Feige,
he had no interest in directing Thor Ragnarok. He did it because he was poor and he wanted to feed his family. I'm not gonna knock the man for doing what he had to do, but look what happened. Knocked it off the park. Thor Ragnarok basically did what James Gunn did with Guardians of the Galaxy. Right? Taking out well-known characters and bringing them to the big screen, getting them to be recognized. The audience fell in love with them. And therein lies the problem of what's going on in the Marvel Universe. And I pulled it all together to figure it out with this episode. This is what happens with X-Men Origins, Wolverine. And this is also what happens with The Witcher, Game of Thrones Season 8. Let me break it all down to you. Let me start right here. Because I just finished watching the Marvels. And I had to go back and watch Morbius and a whole bunch of other movies. The whole point of this channel is to take conversations that's happening on the internet, and I come in and just provide a healthy dose of logic and empathy. Because, you know, I, just like y'all, well, at least some of y'all, I hate hearing conversations that are just residing on one point of view and refuse to understand another. So, you know me, I like to think for myself, want to do some research, and I think I figured out the problem with all this that's going on in the MCU and what people have been complaining about, the audience been wanting to see, what the studios keep messing up on. And it's actually pretty simple. One side of the internet would say is Disney's mission hindering this whole thing when it comes to the quality of their projects. Others would say is people review bombing, creating a negative energy, negative air towards these projects, discouraging people to go see it. Others would say it is the curse of turning the source material into live action. Another side of the internet would say it is the bringing of inclusion, as they would commonly refer to, is too woke. Personally, I think it's a combination of everything. But there's one big core issue, underlying issue that affects all of it. Writing, rushed projects, not giving time to actually flush characters out, flush the story out. The studio's treatment of editors, CGI editors, but most importantly, the hiring of directors that don't even care about the projects. All of that bleeds into the film and affects audiences, people like me who come out, spend their money to watch these movies. This is where you get people conflating issues when the main issue, the core issue really is just bad writing. Studios not making even good enough movies for people who grew up with the source material, people who grew up with these comics. When they were kids reading the comics, getting to know these characters, who grew up with them, influencing their family, their kids to go out and go see it just the same. If you're going to make movies about comic book heroes, stories that people grew up with the source material, and you're going to make them different than what they're used to, at least make them good. Because when you don't, this is where you get people trying to blame anything to make sense of what they just got. They even say it's because you race swapped or gender swapped. Personally, I think that has nothing to do with anything. There's plenty of movies out there that do great, that fall under these type of categories. Black Widow, Wonder Woman, Kill Bill, Alita, Battle Angel, Blade, Black Panther, Men in Black. I'll definitely watch Zazie Beetz take a lead role in her own movie regarding Domino that was featured in Deadpool, or even Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie in Thor. They definitely do have the acting ability, if given the right script, to put out a great movie. My whole point, regardless of all this, is you have a great writing, great action sequences, great character development, soundtrack, all the ingredients you needed to make a good movie, then you have a great turnout. But if you continuously make changes because you had to change the character story, because you race swapped or gender swapped, you even go further by changing the fundamentals of what makes a character the character to be more inclusive. What you have is the same situation that happened with Henry Cavill and The Witcher. You also get that happening with Mahershala Ali and Blade. It's understandable as a writer, you want to put your own stamp into something. But if you're not even going to respect the source material, why even involve yourself in the project in the first place? That's a definite recipe for disaster. I mean, let's not get started about Game of Thrones season 8. Look, let's go to another issue that people talk about. Race swapping, gender swapping, changing the character overall. I remember Michelle Rodriguez actually mentioned this, and she was against it.
I want to clarify about my comment yesterday. What I really meant was that, ultimately at the end of the day, there's a language. And the language that you speak in Hollywood is successful franchise. It's time to stop. Stop trying to, take what's already there and try to fit a culture into it. I think that it's time for us to write our own mythology and our own story, every culture. So that's what I really meant, and I'm sorry if it came off, rude or stupid. It's not what I meant.
And in a certain way, I agree. What I mean is, I don't need to see Michael B. Jordan as Superman. I can see him as Static Shock. I can see Denzel Washington's son, John David Washington, as Blue Marvel. I mean, we have a Alfred Pennyworth series. All right, I'm waiting for Lucius Fox. I hate this narrative that it's because it's too woke. Again, we're going to get into what woke really is, because it's definitely a term being used incorrectly in this whole situation. But let's say you do change the character. Race swap, gender swap, whatever. Let's say you do change the character. That's not a problem. Because when you have an actor who respects the source material, and you have writers that give the actor the right script because they respect the source material, you get Kang. But when you do nothing but disrespect the source material, don't give the supporters of the genre what they've been craving or somewhat similar to what they've been craving or what they wanted, what you get is people tired of trying to even keep up and make sense of the content. Man, it happened to me. When Game of Thrones season 8 came out, that turned me all the way off. Season 1 through 7, I would say one of the best writings I've ever seen in a show. When season 8 came out, I didn't even care about seeing any spin-off. House of Dragon, I avoided that like the plague. Because if they could do that, I can't even imagine what they would do with House of Dragon. But again, I haven't checked it out. If you're already out there, already saw House of Dragon, let me know if it's worth a watch. Because I was tuned. I tuned out the whole Game of Thrones frenzy after season 8. Same thing that happened with the Resident Evil series. All right. Remember when I told you this whole video started with me reviewing the Marvels? Check this out. The Marvels made me remember who Monica Rambeau's mother even was, and how she technically attaches to all of the series. Because I've seen the actor in alternate realities, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, but I'm like, why is she even? And the Marvels actually put it all together for me. It made sense. But it shouldn't be like that. I should be invested in these characters if you've written them well. And unfortunately, I just didn't care. I didn't even care enough to even research it, to look back into the movies. Which is a shame, because the movie apparently made history, being one of the highest grossing movies ever directed by a black female director, beating A Wrinkle in Time. This is the same thing that happened for me with DC's Blue Beetle. Jolo, not going to kill the last name, but the lead actor named Jolo, he carried the movie along with George Lopez. I even like the scenes with the family aspect, powerful. Had this movie come out around the earlier time when the superhero movie genre was on the rise, I would have been like, oh, this is dope. But we've seen this. We've seen this formulaic type of storyline over and over and over again, right? It was a decent movie. Decent. Okay. But that's not good enough. Right? The actor who played Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, carried the movie for the Marvels. But then I remember, dang, I would have to go watch her previous show to catch up to Miss Marvel to understand her backstory. It's like it didn't capture me the way Loki has. That's more of a problem. One show is carrying the entirety of the phase they're in. Not a movie, a show. And here comes the more issues where they go pointing fingers, claiming that it's too woke. They're focused on diversity only. And let me break that down even more so. But before that, there's also another issue where we just are tired. We're fatigued. Us as audience are just tired. I mean, Morbius, I thought it was actually a decent movie. Don't get me wrong. Decent. Not great. Decent. It had the same scene that they did in Spider-Man 3. That's random bad guy dancing scene, which again furthers my point that it's just bad writing that's really affecting these movies. Bad editing choices. When they show the scene with the bad guy dancing in Morbius, trying to show that he's embracing the darkness. They did the same thing in Spider-Man 3, but it just ended up looking silly and goofy and odd. The movie coming out during the time that people are just getting tired of the same old, okay, decent movie. You're not even putting effort behind to making a great movie. And these directors, Nia Costa for the Marvels or Angel Manuel Soto for Blue Beetle, they get the backlash, getting hit with the fact that, the movies are too woke because it's more focused on diversity, inclusion. Stop it. Stop it. The term woke is not even used properly. Woke is the term from us, the Black community, either around or right before the Civil Rights Movement. It was used to tell each other, hey, stay woke, to keep an eye out when it came to police brutality and systematic racism. It was highlighted around the BLM movements, around Michael Ferguson. He co-opted in mainstream media eventually. Now it's being used as a term to diminish the efforts of movies casting diverse actors. That's wrong. Representation does matter. I come from the time when I remember the trope that a predominantly Black cast won't do well overseas. I mean, let's be real. Stan Lee, actually, from my understanding, the one who spearheaded that when it came to his comics about providing representation. I mean, that's the reason why he even created Black Panther. Magneto and Professor Charles Xavier was inspired by the whole civil rights movement. Now, don't get me wrong. You create these movies for the sake of representation, and that's it. There's no character depth. There's no humanity for these diverse characters on screen. All you're doing is trying to check off the box that you hit in the right target audience. That's wrong. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is just take the time to create a good movie. A well thought out, well written, well acted movie. These superhero films can be done right. Guardians of the Galaxy, Black Panther, Logan, Infinity War, Spider-Man, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. What do these movies have in common? Everything that everybody complains about. The difference is no one bats an eye because these movies are well written, well acted. You can see the characters were well researched. The storylines make sense, even within the multiverse. But now, when you say you're going to turn Silver Surfer into a woman, character that's well beloved, well rich with history, in the comics, people grew up with, all you're going to get is people rolling their eyes because they think it's going to be the same old, another gender swap, formulaic movie. And you know what? It probably can be a great movie. But people have low expectations, and people are walking in saying they walk into these movies with low expectations, and it shouldn't be like that. And Disney's missions gets the brunt of the backlash. We work to create a culture that is welcoming to all, celebrates our unique perspectives, and promotes respect for one another, regardless of identity or background. That's dope. That's amazing. Who wouldn't be for that? Well, I know some would, but anyway, you know my point. I'm for it. But you got to make sure you represent that well with your content, especially if we're going to be the ones supporting with our money. Anyway, that's what I think that's going on with this whole situation when it comes to the MCU. It has nothing to do with being woke. It's just bad writing in studios giving us audience formulaic movies and directors who go out there saying they don't even care. Well, it affects the audience and affects us because we spend the time to go out to watch your movies. But I want to know what y'all think. I wanted to break this down with logic and empathy, with some research. Comment below. What do you think of my perspective on this entire topic when it comes to the MCU? Make sure you like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this content. I got more videos on the way. Appreciate you all the support. I'm going to catch you on the next video.